Hi everybody, this is Amanda Wilson's Art 299 Painting for Non-Majors, and in this presentation we're going to go over some ideas behind color theory, artists that utilize a lot of color in their work, and how to glaze, which is the second part to our Scumbled Self-Portraits. Color theory is a guide for mixing colors, and if you look at this poster, you'll see that there's a few different sort of bases for color theory. We've got RGB, red, green, blue, RGY, red, green, yellow, CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, black, and these represent modes of base colors that we use to mix every color. And essentially this becomes really relevant for the computer because the computer has to mix colors for you and it needs to have some sort of a guide. So that's why when you're using Photoshop or some other sort of computer art program, you'll see that you can either use it in the RGB mode or the CMYK mode, those colors being the 3 or 4 basic colors that the computer makes all the other colors with. Now in nature, there aren't such limitations. So color theory is really our way of trying to interpret color. Take a look at the color wheel in the top center of the poster and check out the primary colors. So these are the colors that supposedly you can't mix, and they're the basis of all color mixing, so we always start with the primaries. The secondary colors are mixed from the primaries. So if you look at how the color wheel is set up, you've got blue and yellow at the bottom, and together those make green. Right underneath of them, that's the secondary color. Primary red, primary blue makes purple. Purple is a secondary color. Red and yellow make orange. Orange is a secondary color. Tertiary colors are colors that are made from secondary colors or secondary and primary colors. So that's when we start to get more numerous in our possibilities. But like I said before, color is happening in nature in a much more free-form way. If you look at this slide, you'll see a man swimming with a mantis shrimp and a close-up of a mantis shrimp. Mantis shrimp are the most colorful animals in nature, as far as I know. And similar to the way color functions in nature, when you boil them down for your dinner, they actually change color into something completely different. So color is about perception. The way that we perceive color is through little cones and rods in our eyeball. I won't go into detail on that because I don't know too much about it, but if you Google cones and rods, you can start seeing how I believe our rods perceive low light and our cones perceive high light, bright light, and our cones are responsible for light and color that we need to be more aware of. These images aren't photoshopped. Andy Goldsworthy works with elements of nature to create his compositions. And then afterwards he'll let them sort of dissolve back into their natural form, or the chaos that is the forest floor, or however you want to say it. So he's really going around and just and really sensing the brightest colors in the forest and putting them together to make these rainbows. Joseph Albers was an artist who studied the interaction of color and wrote a book called The Interaction of Color, and he was famous for doing colored paper cut-up tests with his students where he had them cut squares out of a piece of paper and then lay those squares on top of a different colored piece of paper, and that was a guide to help us understand how our eyes perceive color in relation to other color. He used colored paper instead of paint because he felt that the colored paper was more consistent than having students paint swatches, essentially, and it took less time. Take a look at these two squares. One of them's red, one of them's blue, and inside of them there's 2 purple squares. Are these 2 colors of purple the same purple? So the value of a color can actually change how we perceive it. So dark colors can make us perceive bright colors differently, and bright colors can make us perceive dark colors differently. And this was the main focus of Joseph Albers' book, The Interaction of Color, is that it's all based on the context, what's around it. These are a couple of examples of Joseph Albers' color field studies for his color field paintings that he made around the 1950s. He was a part of a painting movement called color field painting, where the meaning of the paintings was based on interactions of color. Amy Sillman is a contemporary artist who shows her work internationally, and she uses color fields to construct her paintings. She also gives an in-depth lecture on artists who have studied color throughout history. It's really poetic, and I'm going to link it to the end of this video. Glazing is thin layers of translucent color layered on top of each other to create an even richer surface on a painting. So what you're going to be doing to your Scumbled self-portraits is mixing up color along with your Liquitex medium in the colors you need to match your color photo, and sensitively brushing these thin layers in over the top of the white areas and the dark areas. When it comes to glazing your portrait, I want you to think about it like you're putting makeup onto your painting. I want you to kind of rub the foundation all over the skin tone, and then go in with some coloration on the cheeks and on the tip of the nose and the lips, and just start delicately massaging in colors that enrich your complexion. Another thing I'd like to see is equal attention to the background. So as rich as you can get your own face, equally rich on the background. This picture shows just sort of a simple green for the background, and I see a little bit of yellow tinting up in the right corner, but I really want to see multiple colors layered on top of each other for something a little bit more complex. So instructions for glazing. Mix up a few colors. Mix up 3 or 4 colors. Make sure they're translucent. Translucent means see-through, so mix them with a Liquitex medium. And what works best for rich colors is colors that don't have white in them. So mixing your red and your yellow, and then mixing that with clear and glazing that on top of white will give you a peach tone if you do it translucent enough. If you make it see-through enough, orange will turn into peach on top of white. And that's really the power of glazing, is that you don't have to mix white into the color, because that'll make it kind of milky and dull. Now if you want that effect, go for it, but if you want to have a certain brighter area in your Scumbled self-portrait, don't glaze opaque glazes. Opaque glazes are glazes that have white mixed in. A translucent glaze is a glaze that just uses your bright chromatic colors and glazes that on top of the white. Similarly with the darker background, if you want something to be really dark and say you just want it to have like a blue tint, you can just paint a see-through blue on top of brown. You don't have to mix white into it. Let your layer of glaze dry before you add another layer of glaze on top of it. This way that they will layer on top of each other to make a new color instead of mixing together to make a new color. Do lots and lots of layers of glazing. You can get these really complex, kind of subtle rainbowy tones if you don't quit after 2 or 3 layers. If you keep going and really try and dial in those shadows and highlights to sort of feel like you're starting to resemble that photo. Finally, if you need more information or this is still confusing for you, the painting.about.com link, which will be in the email I send to you since you can't access it from this video, is a 2-minute video on how to glaze coupled with a short article, just sort of a different wording and perspective on it, and that could be super informative, and I would appreciate it if you guys all watched that. The other link, www.youtube.com, with all the letters at the end of it, is a lengthy video about glazing and how the old masters did it. I believe it's like 20 minutes. That one is optional. The final link that I'll leave in the email is a lecture by Amy Silman on color, and I think you guys should give it a shot. It's really beautiful and informative, and it's something that I use in my practice all the time to inspire me for why color is such a complex and mysterious field of study. And we're also going to listen to it in class. It's pretty heady, so listening to it twice could really help us understand what the heck she's talking about. Thanks, guys, and good luck. I hope to see at least a few layers of glaze on your paintings on Monday, and we'll be glazing all day on Monday as well. Oh, one last thing, everybody. Your write-up of an artist event is due on February 29th, and that's going to be about a half-page write-up on an art event in town. In this photo, there's a few resources for you to look at. What I want to see is some sort of opinion or stance on the event with maybe a short description in the first couple of sentences. There's a handout for this assignment that you should have gotten already, and I have more copies I can give you on Monday. This is due February 29th. I'm going to return it to you the following week, and then I want to see the final draft by the final day.